Hello everyone, Edain here, and welcome back to the Edain Mod, where today we'll be over-explaining the last of the three dwarf factions, the Dwarves of the Iron Hills. Now, firstly, I just want to say thank you everyone for just showing support for me when I made that post the other day. It was not something I had wanted to do. It's not something that I wanted to have to openly just shout out saying, yeah, people who are just assholes are going to just be sent away. I don't want to have to deal with people like that in my life in any way whatsoever. I don't want anyone else who is similar in my situation having to live afraid because of people like that. Anyway, back to the actual video. Let's talk about some good things. So firstly, the Iron Hills are a very fun dwarf faction in the fact that they're very defensively focused. They don't use any like big damage tactics like that of Erebor. They're not using massive amounts of speed to overcome their enemies. They're instead focusing purely upon defense. And defense actually means two different things. One is damage mitigation, and another is damage prevention. So to understand those two, damage mitigation is when, for example, you go to a battle wagon and get the reinforce with trophies ability, or upgrade even, where you promote a battle wagon to level 2, reduce the damage of nearby enemies by 20%. Damage is reduced by more for each battle wagon level. So a total of 35. 35? I feel like that should be 35 at the end, but it could be 40% because it might not include the first level you get from the trophy. So it might start at 25% and then build all the way up to 40% or 35% with that. So that's 40% damage just taken off your opponents. Then there's also damage negation. There's damage prevention even. We just talked about damage negation. Damage prevention is where you increase your armor. So we've got the Dwarf Guardians here, increasing their armor through their stance. You can increase their armor resistance to arrows with tower shields. There's the phalanx that have the shield wall formation for extra armor and damage. There's the crossbowman formation for massive amounts of armor boost. And then there's also things like the Ram Riders, which we'll talk about in a bit, because as you can see right now, they're all just little itty bitty scouts, because that's how they start. Because the dwarves of the Iron Hills, I'm going to keep saying the wrong one every time. The dwarves of the Iron Hills do not have a scout hero. You can see here, there's Dane, there's Murin, Dra, Narin, and Thorin. Technically, you could say Narin is a scout hero, but considering how expensive he is not a scout hero. And in fact, he comes from the barracks, not from the Citadel. And I believe, yeah, every faction has a Citadel-faring scout hero. So yeah, instead we have the Iron Hill Scouts. We can get a total of 3 of them. You can see here, 1, 2, 3. They recently added them to the hero bar to make it easier to keep these 3 in line, because it's harder to notice them when they're just a single entity. But obviously you can see here they have the ability to scout the Iron Hills, have a great vision range, and reveal hidden enemies. But also, once you have 2 different upgrades. 1, you need Narin on the field. And 2, you need to get the elite equipment from your forge. So that's another thing you need to get as well, the forge itself. And then spend 800. And then, let's say there's all 3 of them together. You can see that the timer is a little bit long. It's one of the largest timers on a small Palantir like this. I think the only other ones that are as slow are the Mithril Coats and when Merry and Pippin are set to level up. And also Amraphos, I think, from Belfalas has a rather slow ticking level up. But for things like upgrades, it's a lot faster. So you can see here, we get the upgrade of Ram Riders of Iron Hills. And now we have 3 full units of Iron Hills Ram Riders. And now you can see, instead of having the extra, well, saying it has the extra vision range, it just says they're led by a scout. So the scout ability still exists on the troop in general. They also have the ability to take on their horns. Enemies who get trampled by Ram Riders do less damage for 40 seconds. Pikemen do 20% less. So again, that's another big damage negation. put that together with the battle wagon, and you're already doing a potential 80% damage negation on your opponents, while also having higher damage reduction on your troops. I'm going to say them wrong so many times, but I'm just going to say it now. I do apologize if I say it wrong. You can also give them forged blades and heavy armor, which makes them even stronger. And then having Narin with them, which is important because you can only get them with Narin. He just gives them extra armor and they gain experience faster. But this also works on nearby heroes, units, and elites, not just your heroic troops, which are also the veterans of Khazad-dûm. Anyway, we've talked enough about the mainly mechanics of the Iron Hills that are unique to them. Let's go over the strengths and weaknesses, because there's definitely a versatile amount of strengths and weaknesses. As we've already talked about, high damage reduction and damage negation through lots of different things. Your whole thing is just take as little damage as possible. You have big health pools. You're not meant to be taking damage at all. And your base 3 units, 1, 2, 3, are some of the best of the dwarf unit rosters in general. I would say the Erebor dwarves beat them because of obviously speed. The Erebor dwarves, I would say, would lose to the dwarves of the Iron Hills in a one-on-one standoff, just because of that extra damage reduction you get from your ability, though it's not a passive ability like with the Erebor units, so it's not as simple to use. Another strength is just that you have actual cavalry. You're the only dwarf faction that has a dedicated cavalry force. And you might think, oh, but it's only 3 cavalry units. That can't be the best thing in the world. I would disagree with you. Having only 3 cavalry gives you more incentive to prioritize protecting them, giving them their upgrades, setting them up to be the best that they can be, and then using them to just dominate. You don't need a giant cavalry army. I'd say Rohan is the only faction that actually benefits from having more cavalry. Unless you're playing with friends and they have like full infantry armies, full archer armies, you can be a full cavalry army, for example. But yeah, in a normal 1v1, where you have to have a basic infantry army to deal with anything that's pikemen, so your cavalry can do their thing the best, you need just a small cavalry force, a strike team, to just go around wrecking face. And the fact that dwarves at Iron Hills can teach you best how to use strong, dedicated cavalry that aren't low in entities, because unlike with heroic cavalry of other factions, these are just free base entities of 10 units each, and I keep calling them heroic. They're actually probably elite units, not heroic, despite the fact there is a limit to 3. But I'm not going to go into if they're elite or heroic. They still get Narin's buff. That's the main thing. So we talked about 2 big strengths, just being able to survive really well and having cavalry. So what are the weaknesses? Well, we kind of already glossed over it. The fact that they are missing a hero. They only have 5 heroes. I think that's the smallest hero roster in the game, is the Dwarves of the Iron Hills. They don't have any extra hero for their scouts. They don't get a hero from their outposts, which, to be fair, the other 2 heroes from the outposts for the Dwarves aren't the best. They're like little niche things. Bard's definitely the best. Brand is and then obviously it's sad that Iron Hills does not get a hero. They do get a single entity in the form of the Dragon Slayers, which are cool. But I personally don't use them because, it's attached to one of the other weaknesses of the dwarves, is the Erebor Bastion itself. I'm not saying it is a total flop. They've improved it over the years. They've given it this beautiful new design, which is lovely. I have to admit, it is a beautiful design now. It's a lot better than it used to be visually, and also technically it is just better in general. But I still personally prefer the basic outposts with the Iron Hills, because you want healing with the dwarves that can... I'm not even going to ask why those dwarves are just talking, but yeah, they can just talk on their own. But another thing is they just... Well, focusing all on defense means they can lack offense. They do have some offensive tools in like Rallying Call, but I feel like this unit here, the elite unit of the dwarves, the Ironbreakers, is also the worst of the 3 dwarf elite units. At least with the Unburnt, they have a lot of speed and charging power. The Arkenguard just can kill anything that has armor. But the Iron Breakers are weird because I'm not sure if this has been patched. I haven't been able to check. But I remember the last time I looked at the dwarves of the Iron Hills for just like how much they take damage and things. This swap mechanic to change their weapon from a sword and shield to pickaxe, it used to be that it would allow them to, well, it would, instead of reducing their attack speed, it would reduce their armor. So they would take more damage. But they changed it so now that it's, they knock back while using their pickaxes, which is cool. A knockback mechanic is really good to negate damage in general. But it has reduced attack speed. But I'm fairly certain that while they're in this form, they still have the reduced armor. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not going to say this is a guaranteed thing. But when I tested it before, that is how it was. If the Edain team has patched it, let me know. If not, then I'm going to keep going as saying as it is. The Iron Breakers are the worst of the 3 dwarf hero units, elite units, by a pretty hefty margin. And I would typically just go more with the Guardians because of the fact that they can just tank more with their abilities. Look at the health difference. Only 300 health difference between basic and elite, and the basic is 900 health. That is crazy. That is a basic scout hero's amount of health. Like the Ram Rider Iron Hill Scout only has 490. The Ram Rider has 490, and this has double that. It's insane. That is also because of the heavy armor. I guess if I put heavy armor in the Iron Hills Ram Riders right now, we'll see the difference. But while we're waiting for that, we've talked about the strengths and weaknesses. Let's now move on to the roster, which we've already talked quite a lot about. I'm going to quickly, before I do this, gloss over the, you know, the elephants in the room, the ones we've already talked about twice now. There's the miners, which I don't know where they've gone. They've just disappeared. I didn't make them. In fact, if I just press Q, there they are. They're still at the base. They know what they are. If you've not watched my other 2 Overexplain videos for the dwarves, basically, the miners are a single entity siege unit from a barracks, which you can see has this aura. If there's any enemy building in that aura, including layers, you can dig a tunnel. It will make a little building, and it will slowly cause earthquakes underneath the buildings, destroying them quite effectively. It is a nice little sneak attack move. But you're playing as dwarves. I personally don't see dwarves using sneak attack tactics. I would see the elves using them, especially Lothlorien. If you can get a Lothlorien ally, use some concealing mist, use Haldir's stealth, use some elven wood. Just plant these down and just watch what happens. Next up are the Earth Hammer. I'm just going to go over this quickly. It hits things really hard. It weakens other enemy buildings, but it is itself quite weak. Then there's the Battering Ram, the Demolisher, as we all know it. It can deploy itself. But mostly things in Edain, buildings don't have that much health. There are obviously some cases where you would want to deploy the battle wagon, the battering ram. But yeah. And then we have my favourite catapult, the Iron Hills catapult. It can, 1, launch oil barrels. It can, 2, with its bombard, fire 3 shots. Not 1 like the Erebor, not 2 like Erebor, but 3 like just what the hell. That is insanity. I love that they made this design. It's so cool. And then lastly we have the battle wagons. We've talked about the banner and keg upgrades, so we won't go too much into them. But Iron Hills battle wagons in general have more armor because of the shield bearers on the battle wagon. It doesn't say specifically what the extra armor does, if it's an extra armor class compared to the other 2 battle wagons. If it just takes less damage, or if it just has more health. It's not really easy to tell without having all of the different battle wagons here. But I want to say, because the shield bearers are the same as the shield bearers here, it specifies shield bearer. I think it just means reduction in range damage. Which, you know, doesn't matter what damage type it is. So those spear chucking spear throwers, for example, didn't make that very clear. Could potentially deal less damage with those shield bearers, but again, not 100% sure, can't confirm. And the final upgrade you can get is the reinforcement trophies. As we already mentioned, we'll make the battle wagon level 2 immediately. Will repair itself out of combat. and then does a high reduction in enemy damage whenever it is just nearby. It doesn't have to trample them, it just has to be nearby. That's the scary part. The scary part about it. And yeah, I do like the trophies on battle wagons. If it weren't for the fact they had ram riders, I would definitely be running battle wagons with the Iron Hills because they need the speed. Okay, let's talk about the units quickly. Got our Guardians, as I've already said. They can get tower shields. That's their unique upgrade for Iron Hills to give them reduction in range damage. They can get stubbornness for extra 30% armor. Really good. The Phalanx have their shield wall formation, so not a passive ability, not a activate and it's done ability. It's a activate, it's done, and then you have to activate it again to get your speed back, but also reduce the armor and damage. Do not use this formation, by the way, against trolls. Trolls, the way they hunt things down, they look for one entity, they will chase it down and hit it. If all the entities are all clumped together, he's just going to stand right in front of them and punch them all at once and just kill an entire dwarf phalanx unit. It's happened. I've tried it. I do not recommend it. Then we have the crossbows, potentially the best of the dwarf ranged units in general, including the spear throwers and the men of Dale and Lake Town, because of the fact that you can join them with your guardians and your phalanx to protect them in the clump by reducing their vision and attack range by 50% for 75% extra armor. On a 450 health entity, yes, do it. Just do it. Have this formation up at all times. It's worth it. Unless you've got draw, of course. Unless you've got draw or you're on the walls, then I wouldn't use that formation all the time. But we'll talk about draw later, because he's one of the only ranged... the only ranged dwarf character you can actually purchase. Keeley is technically a melee ranged hybrid, if we want to get into specifics. But let's not go over there. As we've already know, Khazad veterans, you can send them into your forge to get the mithril mail for your heroes. You can also keep them around and get a select upgraded equipment loadout. You can go for axe, you can go for hammer, you can go for Morningstar or sword, which means just more basic damage, more damage to buildings, more damage to things with armor, heavy armor, and more damage to heroes. And then you can go the equipped shield route, which gives you a different armor class, heavy armor class, which means just take less damage from chop damage, and more from a few more things. But you also have more health. So currently 1750. Now it is... Oh, right, it is just the armor class change. It's not heavy armor. I keep forgetting that. Well, that's just confirmed it. That was confirmed. I've probably already confirmed in the past, but it's a long time ago now. So, yeah, Khazad vets, really good. Use them. And in fact, in commemoration of this, I've already made a few videos. Well, shorts anyway. I was showing off the Noldor vets versus a bunch of units. I've now done the Khazad vets versus a bunch of different units. Mostly the same units that I used against the Noldor vets. They hold out well. They hold out better than I thought they would. Then we have our favourite unit, the Ram Riders. Already talked about them. They're really good, really cool. They start off as 100 a piece and then become 800 once you make them a full unit. It's from the Scout. And their take on the Horns is really good. Then we come to our Erebor units, which are probably the most random units of the Dwarves. You have the Erebor Guardians, which are, yes, a different type of Guardian in the game. But they have the sprint ability of the Dwarves of the Ered Luin, which isn't as good when you remember the fact that they just have less speed in general, which is why they boosted the actual speed percentage, which does put it about the same grade as the Ered Luin Guardians, which is cool. And then we have the Hunters. I think it was called Hunters. Yeah. Hunters of the Ered Mithrin. They have Nail Down. The Hunters throw a salvo of spears that paralyzes an enemy battalion or a monster for 15 seconds. Not usable on heroes. Which, personally, whenever I use this, I find if it's used on a monster, it's going to kill the monster. So, it's not really paralyzing it. Unless it's like a Mumakil, a Armored Troll, or werewolves? The werewolves of Tolin Gorhoth, maybe, from Power of Passage's Sauron. But yeah, you mainly want to be using this on a battalion of, say, heroic units to keep it in place and then just surround it and kill it. So you've got a speed unit and you've got a slowing unit, which is a kind of an Ered thing, but they gave it to the dwarves of Ered Mithrin, which is okay, it's cool in its own way. And then we have the Dragon Slayers of the Ered Mithrin, which have 4,900 health when you give them the heavy armor upgrade. Starts at like 3,300, so about the same amount as a basic scout hero at level 10. Say Pippin, for example. They can swap between their sword and their Morningstar. So sword does high individual damage, and it does more damage against monsters. The Morningstar deals area damage, and it's hard to tell which is which without actually attacking. But I'm fairly certain this is sword mode, and that is mace mode. Whichever one is in the frame is the one you're swapping to. Yes, between sword and Morningstar, it's hard to confirm without actually having one of them convert, but I'm not going to do that. Try and find out. Oh, that should be a fun thing, actually. Have these fight a few things as well. I'm just getting new short ideas, which I really like, because I do like how everyone watching the shorts watches it at least once or twice. So I see they do get a lot more views than some of my other videos, just for a bit of the talking points. And technically, I've not talked about them yet. This is technically a unit as well, the Dwarven Woodcutter. Use them against Ents if you want to. Otherwise, they can repair buildings or just cut down wood for your lumber mills. That is all heroes. And before we move on, yes, this glitch is still here. Well, I'd call it a glitch. I'm calling it a bug, because that is what it is. It's a bug, and technically an exploit where the lines of defense you can normally only get once you build the Dwarven Stonemason, and then purchase the line of defense upgrade when you have a level 3 stonemason to build a heroic statue or a hearth. You can just build a barracks or a forge works on those points at any point before you get the lines of defense, which I think is, yeah, it's a very exploitable bug, which I've seen people use, including myself, and I'm going to be using it again in the next 2 dwarf skirmish videos. But yeah, if you're using these in PvP, make sure your friends know about it first and that they consent to it, because otherwise you're getting a big advantage over your opponents if you know how to play the faction well. Anyway, we've talked enough about the units and the bugs. Let's now talk about the heroes. This should be very quick. First hero on the list is Norin. We've already talked about his ability Dane's Messenger, giving armor and experience gain for heroes, heroic and elite units nearby. He can also use his ability as an active to move faster. You know, there's a faster moving scout hero who needs more speed. He does, apparently. And also it's a heroic statue effect where it persists for 30 seconds after he leaves the area. Then as ceasefire for 30 seconds, the designated enemy hero or monster cannot be attacked or attack, and any abilities cast during that ceasefire will take twice as long to reload. So use this against like a Gandalf. He's about to use all his abilities to blow up the word of power. He's not going to be getting that back anytime soon, if you can make it work. A Sauron is actually a good target as well. Mumakil is pretty good. The trample will still be in effect, but if you have pikemen, great. I've never actually used this power myself because I never see myself needing a good target. But in the future, could happen. Could happen. Then we have the battle command. If you're tired of running around trampling with your cavalry, you can make them a fighting force. Give them all-round riders in the area. Firstly, just gotta love that scene. So good. So you get bonus damage for 30 seconds, but they have their movement speed halved. And if Norin is in the area, the bonus also affects him. So you can see we're moving really slow now. Moving really slow. So we're not trampling things anymore. And if we do trample them, we're trampling them like once, and then that's it. And then finally we have Alliance. Norin sends a raven to promise an allied hero his support. The designated hero doesn't take any damage for 10 seconds. And can be used from the entire battlefield. You can see Edain here.
Now I've got you.
Don't have to move closer to him. He just gets a messenger raven. Yep. And now he's invulnerable for 10 seconds. Really good. Really, really good. Does that Billy Connolly rant. He's got some really good voice lines. So next we have Mirren and Dra, which I'm going to talk about together because their first ability is the same, but different in that it requires the other to be effective. because it's the officers of the Iron Hills. Requires both Mirren and Dra to be on the battlefield. Now, if you don't know who Mirren and Dra is, they're actually Games Workshop created characters, as far as I'm aware. Because I actually have the miniatures for them. I've actually painted them in the past. They're actually the scouts of the Iron Hills. They run a bunch of scout forces. And but yeah, obviously, it makes more sense to call them the officers when we're in a more militaristic style, and it's more like the Battle of the Five Armies style. So we got the ability Officers of the Iron Hills. Alongside his old friend, Mirren fights with the increased tenacity and knocks back enemies into each other with each strike. His fighting spirit inspires nearby allies and increases their armor by 30%. Dra's ability. Alongside his old friend, Dra trusts Mirren to cover his back and focuses on his attacks. He fires flaming shots and provides more damage to nearby allies. So that's 30% damage, 30% armor when you have both of these heroes around.
Ready to go.
Mirren, who has a more defensive style roster, has the ability to defend the halls. Mirren orders his units to defend the halls with their lives. Nearby dwarves near buildings move 50% faster for 30 seconds. Do not know the specific range of this, but as you see here, it seems like it's affected all of these dwarves here that were near a building, which technically they're not, but we can see all the way here it does not affect our dwarves here, so it does have a limit. I would say the limit is about the map. The current map is as far as the current screen even is as far as the limit as how far it goes, but it has to be a building, so like a lone tower, not a gate, for example, which is why it didn't target some of these units in the back. Next, we have the Charge of the Iron Hills. Similar to Edain's ability, but the other way around, where it's you choose the point, and it charges through Mirren all the way to the back with Ram Riders. Cannot be used on top of enemies, but you know it can be used to use as a retreat effect, depending on where you use it. And then we have the Barrage. This is a map-wide ability. You see, you can be targeted absolutely anywhere, even off the map. Can't be targeted off the map. But, yeah, so we have, what's it actually called? Barrage. On Mirren's command, a barrage is fired at the target area that deals medium damage to units, knocks them off their feet, and fears them. Let's see if it includes our own units. You can see that little arrow shot, and then, boom. It did not hurt them. Good. You can see it was like a barrage from the old days of the Creator Heroes. But better, because it's map-wide. Next up, we have Dra. He has his I call it Pavass. It's obviously not meant to be called Pavass, but I'm going to keep calling it Pavass. So, he places it on the ground and commands nearby troops to hold their position. Nearby allies follow this example, becoming immune to knockback and trampling, and gain bonus armor against ranged attacks. So that is this aura here. And as long as the Pavass is here, then it's fine. I think if Dra moves out of the area, it goes. No, as long as it's there, it will provide that debuff. And you can see it is a permanent aura as well. So it's not like you need to have Dra in that position. It's just have it down there and it works. Next we have Focus Fire. Marks an enemy hero or building, increasing the damage of all dwarves in its vicinity. If the target is destroyed, nearby allies will temporarily gain bonus 150% experience. So, you know, really focus down on something. Not clear what the Focus Fire is, but let's have these labourers go back and find some wood. Go get some wood! But yeah, in fact, if you can target a hero or building to do more damage, apparently, it says increasing the damage of all dwarves in its vicinity. It doesn't specify how much. So, take that with a pinch of salt. That might just be flavor text. I think it might just be flavor text. So the other part of the ability is in itself perfectly fine. And now we have the Blinding Barrage. Before we had the ordinary barrage, which was just damage based. The Blinding Barrage, however, instead is used to rob enemies of their vision. You can see it was a much more spread out and wide effect. So anything that's caught in that area, archers, machines, and structures in the area will be reduced. Their range will be reduced by 50% for 30 seconds. Great ranges. Great. Does that one say great range as well? No. It just says great range. Oh, that should be a meme. Want great range, do you? Okay. Okay, next we have Thorin the Third Stonehelm, who is, as we've already talked about in the past, very bloody hard to kill. But this version of Thorin, unlike in Erebor, is more armor-oriented in his Iron Will ability. When he has a 50% health, he gains more armor. At 25% health, he gains more armor and immunity to knockback. Blood Rage deals double damage, but loses armor. Gain more speed and cause near enemies to flee. And then his Blood Revenge is the same. Attacks nearby enemy with Mighty Blow, causing normal damage. For each hit enemy, Thorin is healed. Enemies, heroes, and monsters and machines suffer 3 times as much damage. So yeah, exactly the same as with the Thorin of Erebor. But you know, he's just got no Gimli with him. But yeah, really good healing and such. Now we come to Edain. He is very different. This Edain is just, would you consider just sodding off? Right? No. So, Rising Rage. Edain's rage increases with every attack against enemy units or heroes. After 5 attacks, he deals damage in an area and gains 30% armor. After 10 attacks, his strikes now throw enemy to the ground and can't be knocked down himself. Rage fades after 20 seconds. Obviously, every strike will constantly reset that rage. It used to be the other way around with these two Edains. The Edain of Erebor used to be an armor buff, while this Edain used to be a just pure damage tank, to killing everything with massive amounts of damage. Then we have the Rupturing Strike. Edain attacks target enemy with such strength that he cracks open the ground around him, knocking all nearby enemies off their feet. Leaves behind ruptured territory, slowing enemies by 30%. Slow is doubled at full rage. So you can see the range isn't very great on this. But anything that gets hit by that is knocked back, similar to what's his name? Botha for the Ered Luin Dwarves. But doesn't have the extra recoil slow on the extra area around it for a while. Then we have Mount and Dismount. Requires full rage, so you've got to be attacking a lot to have this. It's unlike the Edain Ironfoot King variant, who just needs to hit once and then has his rage open. So at full rage, Edain briefly mounts his boar, not as fast as other steeds, but deals increased trample damage. Doesn't slow down when trampling enemies or on ruptured territory. Doesn't slow down when trampling enemies on... Oh, okay, so you use this. You rupture territory. Your enemies stand back up, you trample them, and you don't get slowed down. But it only seems to be Edain, I think, that gets that. And then lastly, we have the Army of the Iron Hills. Edain temporarily summons several battalions of Iron Breakers to his side, depending on his rage. On his boar, he summons Ram Rider instead. So, it's not like a click and a summon. At no rage at all, we make 2 units of Iron Breakers. If we were on our Ram, we would get Ram Riders instead, which is pretty cool. And obviously you can get Mithril Mail, like all the other Dwarf heroes. They can always get Mithril Mail. Now then, we come to the structures, which are exactly the same with all of the Dwarves. Got the Mine Shaft, decreases the cost of upgrades, and also puts you into the mine network to come out of another mine anywhere else on the map. You have the Stonemason, where you get your free upgrades for your citadel, your main base, giving you either more protection from your towers, the oil vents if you're on a castle start, because you only get the oil vents from these 2 castle locations, we'll just call them locations, and then obviously again the lines of defense, which are currently bugged, where if you don't have them you can make military buildings. If you have them, you can build the 3 things that were normally meant to be there. You can get a battle tower, which you can upgrade with a forged blade upgrade. You can get a harp, you can get a heroic statue. You've got your barracks, where you get all your dwarf units from. You've got your siege works, where you get all your siege engines from. You've got the workshop, where you get all your upgrades for military and economic upgrades. And then we have obviously the mine shafts on the settlements. We have the lumber mills on the settlements that can give us our discounts for buildings. I love that they gave that back to us. And then there's the pony camp, which we all know, we all love. That's how we get our Khazad-dûm vets, by merging them with a unit of heroics. Oh, actually, hold on a second. I haven't thought about this. Let me... I think I've tried to show this before. Let's see if... They cannot be merged with the opponents. Okay. Because they have a timer, they cannot be merged with who's it's. Lastly, we have obviously our basic outpost. We've already showed it off twice. This time I want to show off the Erebor Bastion a bit more because the upgrades are important to note what they do. So firstly, we have the additional Hall of Warriors, which increases recruitment speed. My God, English, and production by 50%. But you can see the one problem with the Erebor Bastion compared to the other two things is they only make 10 resources per tick, so that's an extra 5 resources per tick. You might get that money back by the end of the game. Then you get the Dragon Trophy, which gives you a thing in the front and obviously a troll corpse on the side. I'll show you the fully upgraded version in a moment, which gives you a damage buff by 30% for up to 45 seconds after leaving the vicinity. It makes it probably one of the best heroic statue abilities in the game, because it actually takes into account the fact that you are a armored faction that has armor buffs. So you don't need more armor buffs, you just have more damage buffs. By 30%, no less. And then we have the Border Wardens. I love saying that, Border Warden. You want a Border Warden? So this increases the health of the building by 2,000 to make it a total of 10,000 when you get it. Additionally, Summoned Mineshafts, Lone Tower, and the Summoned Citadel all gain plus 30% armor while the Bastion stands. Now I want to test this because I don't know if it stacks, but I want to know if it stacks. So we've got this Iron Hills catapult, which I've been talking up. Wish I didn't give it Flaming Stone so I can test it without destroying something instantly. But I'm going to barrage on top of this mine shaft. It currently has 4,000 health and 30% bonus armor. I'm in fact also going to give it the Rune of Inviolability for another 50%, so it takes less damage. So look how little damage that dealt. That was with 80% armor. Now, let's get this Border Warden as well. Let's speed it up with the hidden one. So now, 110% armor. Yay or nay? Mythbusters. It does not. The ability does not stack. I don't remember if it said if it stacks or not. But from that, I do not think it stacks. Wait, why does it give me free... Oh, because I've got used thingies that gives me more money for a bit of time. Sorry, I thought I broke the game. Lastly, there is the Mighty Catapult. Some of the catapult constructs a catapult at the very tippity top. And this is what the Citadel looks like in the end. You can see we've got the additional Hall of Warriors over here. Somewhere. Let me go back over and see where it is. Oh yeah, I see it now. It's it is here. It's just where the extra people are. Then there's the Border Wardens on the top here, which we then can construct the Mighty Catapult. Makes you wonder how they come up and down from here now, because that's where the ladder used to be. And then there's obviously all the stuff from the Border Wardens, the Mineshaft, or the extra summoned armor, which is really good. Now let me double test that again. This time against the tower. Yeah, that's decent damage. Like, that's only 1,500 health. This thing, each shot does do a lot of damage. Don't get me wrong, it does damage. And then lastly, of course, we have to show the Mighty Catapult. You target something, it shoots the stones, just like in BFME 2. It then apparently doesn't do damage to my structures. But yeah, that was right on the mine shaft and it dealt no damage. Probably because that's how it's meant to be. It's just the fire that's burning that's saying, our structures. I'm going to just demolish this quickly. And that is all the structures of the Iron Hills. Powers are exactly the same as with every other faction. For the Dwarves, Kark's Ravens, Rallying Call. You can use it on the Summoned Citadel for a bigger aura. Got the Lone Tower, we've shown already. Got the oh, yeah. Beautiful. You've got the Undermine. You've got the Weapon Art of the Dwarves. More damage and armor for every Dwarf unit that has 4 Forged Blades and Heavy Armor or Fire Arrows. Then you've got all the 4 different runes. Extra armor for a building. damage and armor for all ally. Oh no, it does more armor for allies in the vicinity. So it's a other heroic effect, heroic statue effect. Rune of Power for extra 100 hit points restored every second, and then faster recruitment speed or resource production speed, which actually can target this. Currently 15. Let's see if it changes to anything else. If it does, then we confirm that it might work for Dale and Lake Town as well. It does. That's 19. Okay, that's cool. So much history. Only you can prevent forest fires. Why did I feel the need to say that? Oh, I just make myself laugh sometimes for no reason. Gandalf the Grey, who comes out in a flash of great light, which paralyzes everyone nearby, and then he can use his powers after a short time. Got Beorn, who summons himself and a few Beornings. Sometimes they come out with no skins. At least that's what I've figured out in the past. Well, it's annoying. Summon Citadel, you can only have one at a time, and they can make 3 different expansions. As I've already said, it also has the extra echo call from the horn. You can get the expansion, the hall expansion, the dormitory. And it starts with a flaming shot catapult at the top. And you can recruit your dwarf units from here. Honestly, perfect. Perfect as it is. I've not tested if in free build it can now make the wall expansions again. I hope it can't. Then we have the Earthquake. And then finally, final stand. So now we come to the final overview. Like with all dwarves, these dwarves are amazing. Definitely one of the stronger factions in the game, just because of how much damage they can sustain, how much damage they can deal with their units, their heroes, their powers. They're just lined up to be a good faction. A good faction that needs very little helping power. But if you're using them with friends, just having them around can make a big difference. And also, if you know who you're playing against, what you're playing against, it can help you determine which of the dwarf factions works best against them. That I feel like has always been a thing where if you start as if you do a random start, you don't know who you're playing against, so you don't know which dwarf faction is better to use. So you might wait it out a bit. But I personally find, just play whichever one you want. Play the dwarf faction you like playing the most. Or just feel like playing in the moment, like me. Sometimes I feel like playing Iron Hills, sometimes I feel like playing Ered Luin, sometimes I feel like playing Erebor. Sometimes it can depend upon the map. It can depend upon, again, your allies, who you know you're playing against. It can be dependent on your on the alignment of the stars. It can be whatever you want it to be, the reason. You can just play them for whatever reason. All 3 dwarf factions are amazing. And even ever since they first came out, I've loved playing the dwarves from time to time. They're just a nice, relaxing faction when you get to the cut and dry of it. They just don't have any real flaws, other than the fact that some of them are better than others in different regards. That is their main flaw, is the fact that they are altogether amazing. If you could use them all together, they are amazing. But if you have them separated, they're obviously not going to be as strong, but they are still really strong. And that is just what makes the dwarves, in my opinion, some of the most well-rounded factions in the game. And that is everything. I hope you all enjoyed. And I'll see you all in the next one. Farewell.